Do you ever see those pictures or videos of the evolution of a game or game character? Like specifically Mario, where it's like, this is what Mario looked like in this year, and it's him evolved throughout the games and the years. Like, here's NES Mario, here's Nintendo Switch Mario, here's DS Mario, etc, etc. And there are obviously other versions of this, like Pokemon equivalents, Zelda, and Link equivalents. How those characters and games have evolved in terms of visual styles. These are really cool, although sometimes when I look at the Mario ones specifically, that's all they feel like, just evolution, just this is what Mario sort of had to look like or could only look like in this specific console. This is 8-bit Mario, this is 16-bit Mario, this is 32-bit Mario, etc, etc. And why does Mario look like 8-bit Mario? Well, it's because the console that he was on is 8-bit, and for the most part this makes sense, especially in the early stages, you know. This is what Mario had to look like back then. It's a 16-bit console, you make him 16 bits, that's the best he can look. And yeah, it's a cool thing to look at how the character has evolved with the, you know, inclusion of more pixels and more increased capabilities of the console that Mario is from. Although over time, as you get further down the timeline and of the evolution of Mario, the further down you become, you'll notice the graphics start to get a bit samey, and that's for obvious reasons. Tech is evolving, you know, maybe at the same speed, but in terms of like visual and graphic style, we've definitely slowed down a bit. The leap from 8-bit to what we have now on the Switch and the Switch 2 is huge, but as we get into these later generations and we look at the Switch, and then a whole 7 years after that and we have the Switch 2, the difference isn't even that big, and it's not that surprising, and that's not the problem. I guess the problem that I have with these is how Mario is evolving for the sake of evolution. Mario isn't evolving for the sake of choice. Although, you know, technology in gaming isn't advancing as, you know, rapidly as it did back in the day. You waited a year and suddenly you've got double the processing power. Although it's not evolving that fast, that's really not an excuse as to why you can't evolve Mario. And evolution doesn't just mean following steps, one step after another, and only changing Mario just because, you know, graphics have updated and become better. You don't change a character and how they look just because, oh yeah, there's just more pixels, because like I say, once you get further down that line, that change becomes completely unnoticeable. But what does become noticeable is the lack of creativity and, I guess, choice or lack of freedom around that character and how you want to use him and how you want to change him, not just for the sake of graphics, but in terms of art style. That's what games are. They're pieces of art. They're amazing. They have music, they have film, they have gameplay. And why would you not want to have fun with that? A franchise though that has always sort of strayed away from this and done its own thing and give Mario a new style, again, purely out of choice and creativity, is the Paper Mario series. And for a while people have sort of dunked on this series for becoming worse and worse, and they say the series actually peaked all the way back in the GameCube days with Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. One of the reasons for this was because Nintendo were actually secretly, for a while at least, putting a lot of restrictions on Mario, how he looks, other characters in the game, and around 5 years ago they made this public in a lot of interviews with people developing the game, stating that they didn't want to take a lot of risks, and their main goal with Paper Mario games wasn't actually to be creative, but in a nutshell they were being restrictive. Their own philosophy was, we need to make these games look similar to mainline 2D and 3D Mario games and other games like Mario Party and Mario Sports games, because it's just going to confuse players, and that includes changing Mario, changing Luigi, changing any characters, and it also included introducing new characters that are exclusive to the Paper Mario franchise or any spin-off Mario games. Nintendo just outright admitted that at some point, that is why the Paper Mario games are becoming, I guess, just, yeah, less innovative. At least in terms of new designs. You know, Nintendo actually wanted to strip themselves back so Mario could become more recognizable. But anyone with a brain cell could tell you that players don't care about that. In fact, players care about the opposite. We know what Mario looks like, and we can tell that Paper Mario is a representation of Mario, and we can tell that other characters are in the Mario franchise, and we don't care if they don't appear again in sports games or mainline 2D or 3D games, etc. We just love the Paper Mario series. It's supposed to be unique, so why isn't Nintendo letting it? But it seems like Nintendo just took a dive and they released a lot of spin-off Mario games. They were holding back, it seems, on a lot of these games, re-releasing them or remaking them, like Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, because that was an old Paper Mario game that doesn't represent the current Mario. And I guess they just give up on that whole philosophy, and now they've got loads of Mario games and spin-off games, and this is great. It's finally coming back, and no, it doesn't confuse people. It excites people to see Mario in a new shape and form. And I'm just so glad Nintendo finally picked this up and realized this. Sometimes we all know they're a company that like to be different and basically ignore people. Sometimes ignoring people and ignoring the crowd can generate amazing creative ideas, but sometimes it can do the complete opposite, and you end up with an output that is not only not creative, but it's something that no one wants. But then Nintendo decided to make this huge move, in my opinion, a move that, again, 5 years ago, I don't think they would have ever done because of this whole philosophy around keeping Mario consistent. They put out Mario Wonder. Super Mario Bros. Wonder might just be one of my favourite games, purely graphics-wise, and probably the prettiest Mario game, not even probably, definitively the prettiest Mario game I've ever seen. What this game felt like wasn't a step forward in this evolution chart, it felt like a sidestep. Not a step that ignores graphics, but also doesn't rely on them. It became its own thing. Not only were Nintendo doing amazing things like focusing on little animations any normal player might just skip, especially kids, and not care about, but all these like finicky sort of really tiny details in animation and graphics that just look so cool. What they did with this game was stylized it, and it's the style that brings me back to this game. To be honest, if this game, was the same, but the skin changed to look like New Super Mario Bros. U or whatever, and it just stayed the same style, I don't think I would play it. It's purely how this game looks, and its style and its creativity around animations and how characters look, and how they're not just putting Mario a step forward, increasing the graphics just slightly and so he looks the same. Nintendo were finally putting graphics second, and in first, art style. Super Mario Bros. Wonder felt like a new title in the Legends of Zelda series, where everything looks different. They use graphics to their full capacity, of course, but every Zelda game does this thing, and you can look at this in Evolution of Zelda pictures and the videos like we talked about. They have a different method where they change characters and how they look, and they have a cool game formula where they're able to do this because the timeline is very inconsistent in Zelda, and they just have fun with it. They just choose an art style and they're like, yep, that's amazing, let's make our game look like that. And it doesn't matter if this game doesn't look like a previous one or the future one, or it seems separated, because people aren't stupid. People can make that connections themselves. Obviously they're all part of the same franchise, but it doesn't matter if it doesn't connect or seamlessly look like each game could live with each other. And again, who cares? That's actually what makes the Legend of Zelda franchise so exciting, because you never actually know what you're going to get in terms of gameplay and graphics and art style. When Super Smash Bros. Ultimate got released, there's nothing more exciting than seeing that Breath of the Wild Link and realizing, oh my god, yeah, Link's changed so much, not just in terms of technicality, but in terms of style. That's so exciting, we finally get to play as the new Link. And Ganondorf and Zelda and all these characters follow the same rule. And finally, I feel like Nintendo are in a direction with Mario, their main franchise, that, by the way, in terms of world building and lore, has no restrictions. There's no reason they can't make Mario look like paper, or goofy, or short, or stubby, or tall, or polished. And they're finally letting themselves free with that, I hope, with Mario Wonder. But it's not just Mario Wonder, and the whole reason I'm making this video and talking about this whole art style debate, or whatever you want to call it, is the new Mario Kart, presumably called 9 trailer, that got, well, it's not even a trailer, it was just sort of a secret reveal with the Switch 2, a little nod to what might be the launch game, or probably is, and they showed Donkey Kong. And this is what people cared about. There are parts of this trailer that look like, there's a lot of stuff that alludes to new details, new mechanics and gimmicks in the game, 24 players, there's a lot of things people have been focusing on, but there's so much more. But people aren't focusing on that, or the pit stop, or the new power-up potentially that's in that little sneak peek trailer. They're focusing on Donkey Kong. And guess what? They're not focusing on Donkey Kong because, ooh, look at his fur, it looks slightly better than the last game. They're focusing on Donkey Kong because he looks so different style-wise. He looks odd, he doesn't quite look like himself, but you can still tell that's Donkey Kong. And at no point in that trailer did anyone think, who's that character? We all know immediately who that character is, we have common sense. Donkey Kong's been in almost every Mario Kart game. It's Donkey Kong, we know that, but hang on, why does he look different? And then all these theories arrive. Like, oh, it's Nintendo wanting to make, you know, that rare character theirs, or they're going back to movie Donkey Kong. And what's funny about all this conversation is, does there really need to be a reason? I think Nintendo finally are having fun with these characters. And now, if that Donkey Kong isn't, you know, the small chance just a skin, that could be an option here, where that Donkey Kong is just like maybe a classic or movie skin. But if that's what Donkey Kong looks like in the Switch 2, I am so excited. I am so excited for the Switch 2 and future Mario games, future Donkey Kong games, feeling like their own. Going back to the Switch 2 in, you know, 10 years and being like, oh yeah, that's Switch 2 Donkey Kong. That's the evolution of Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong isn't just getting 100 more furs every year. He's looking completely different because, again, I feel like a broken record here, but Nintendo are finally having fun. Graphics wise, at least. We all know Nintendo is the fun company, and like I said in my previous video, that's so evil apparently. And I can only hope Nintendo keep going down this path. The thing that would drive me insane is if a new 2D Mario came out and it looked exactly the same as Wonder, and then it's like, okay, you've messed up. You've reused their style twice. You know, let's just say for the sake of argument, it's not Super Mario Bros. Wonder 2. In that case, that would make sense, but, you know, you've done the same thing. What made Super Mario Bros. Wonder so cool is that the game is sort of built from that art style. I can imagine it's like art style first, and then, okay, what does this art style look like? It looks weird, it looks goofy, let's make the whole game look like that. It's just amazing, and like I say, I hope they just keep doing this, and they're like, new 2D Mario game? Okay, this one is horror, and it looks horrifying and creepy and uncertain, and that's the gimmick they go for. And it's not just a gimmick, it's love of the genre of video games. It's putting attention to detail in Mario, not just for the sake of attention to detail. I can't wait for the Switch 2, I can't wait for all these new games to look like their own. I can't wait to see what other characters may potentially change. This new Mario Kart just looks amazing. There are so many tiny details in terms of, you know, like when Mario starts drifting and there's this really cute bopping animation and stuff like that. That's stuff I feed off, that's stuff I love. I love that stuff, and I just want Nintendo to do more of it, and that's why I've been ranting about a children's video game for 13 minutes, but thanks for listening, and subscribe.